All right, I'm rolling.
All right, so the first question is if you could just say and spell your first and last name and tell us who you are at K College.
My name is Margaret, Margaret, Wiedenhoeft, Wiedenhoeft. I am the Executive Director in the Center for International Programs at Kalamazoo College.
All right, so when you see that there are international students across the state and across the country who are having their academic visas revoked, I mean, what do you see as somebody who is involved in this field when that sort of thing is happening?
Well, it's certainly unprecedented and it is concerning. International students are some of the most documented students, documented folks from outside the U.S. that we have. We have a lot of information about them. The federal government has a lot of information about them. And until now, the federal government trusted officials on each college campus to monitor their own student population and to let them know if a student was violating their visa status. And so at this time, because of the change in the process, this is happening without necessarily those officials on the college campus knowing, and most concerningly, without the student necessarily knowing as well. And it just creates an uncertainty around our students that are here from outside the United States to study, and certainly causes concern for how they may wish to pursue their studies in the future.
If you can, talk to me about that process of an international student, getting a visa to come to the United States to go to college and to study. How, intricate of a process is that? What are the steps they have to take?
It's a very intricate, multi-step process that starts with admission to a college or university in the United States, or perhaps a community college. Then they have to apply for the appropriate student visa at the U.S. consulate or embassy overseas. This usually involves in-person interview. It involves several pieces of paperwork, including financial information, letter of support, and letter of admission from the school, various other documents so that the consular officer knows that the student is coming with the intention to study and not to immigrate. And then all of that, there's fees attached to all of those steps. So they're paying upwards of $1,000 even before they arrive in the United States. And then once they arrive in the U.S., they have to report their address, local address, into our database that we use to collect the visa information. And then each semester or each term that the students start studying again, we ask them all the same information. So we get their address, we get their current phone number, we make sure that they're doing an appropriate course of study and that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is a student. So they are not allowed to work off campus. They're limited in the number of hours that they can work on campus. So they're already a highly regulated group of students on our campus.
And so with the administration starting to just pull this away, are they just stripping all of that and getting rid of, just undoing sort of this whole process in one fell swoop, or what is that?
I think the process has definitely become unprecedented, and it's not clear exactly what the intention is. If the intention is to create a climate where international students no longer feel welcome, then I would say it's accomplishing that. I think when international students make the commitment and the investment to study at a school in the United States, they understand that they're going to follow the rules and they're going to do what they need to do to maintain and be a student in the United States. And so if there are arbitrarily made decisions that say, oh wait, you're actually not doing what we think you should be doing, even though there's no indication of what that is, then that makes it very unclear and uncertain. And in those uncertain times, I don't think a lot of students are going to be willing to invest the thousands of dollars in an education in the U.S. that they would have.
And on the inverse of that, are students who are here looking to study abroad being sort of discouraged from doing that as well in response?
You know, that's a great question. I would imagine that for our students right now, we are not seeing that. We just actually had our largest application pool that we've had in many years, so we're excited about that. But I think overall, there is the impacts of these decisions that we can't tell. So our own study abroad students also have to apply for student visas to the countries where they will be studying. So what happens if a government decides to also decide to follow along what they're observing in the United States right now and just arbitrarily cancel student visas? You know, that would also impact our students' ability to actually get out and study abroad.
So what does this do for international students? I know you mentioned the precedent that it sets, that they're not welcome here. And I mean, if they're going through all this process to be, you know, here and be allowed to be here and study, and that's their intent. But I mean, just for all that to be stripped away, I mean, that's got to be damaging to the students.
I think it's certainly frustrating and worrisome. You know, we have a lot of students that value an education in the United States, and especially in Southwest Michigan. We have lots of great colleges and universities they want to attend. And right now, what we're trying to convey is that we support you, we want you in our community, we certainly want you on our campus, and we will do everything we can to continue to monitor and react to the situation as appropriate, and to help them know that they have someone that is supporting them, so that they, you know, if they do run into a situation or if they have questions, they know where they can reach us.
So what sort of protections do international students have? You know, because there's something in me that's saying, you know, you can't just like rip their, you know, all their documentation away and just send them back to where they are, especially if they haven't, you know, especially if they haven't done anything wrong. But,
yeah,
so
exactly.
What protections are in place? Exactly.
So, you know, when you're here on a visa in the United States, you actually are in a pretty vulnerable position. The protections that students normally would have is they would normally, if they're a student, they normally would have the due process that most campuses have and will go by in terms of determining whether an international student can fulfill their student status. Okay, so if there's a student conduct issue or something else, that institution will determine what happens to that student. I think now what is happening is students they will not necessarily know the reason that their visa or their student status has been terminated, and in order to find that out, that means that they have to go through an immigration attorney, and even going through that process, that may not buy them enough time or actually allow them to understand what it is that they're actually being having their visa revoked for. So that certainly is the biggest concern, not just to our campus, but to the international education community writ large, because we do all think due process is important. It's something that international students have available to them on campus, and the fact that it's not available to them now is very concerning.
Yeah, sort of a two-part question here. If there's any international students on campus here who are concerned about just kind of having that ripped away from them, what should they do? Where should they go? And then the second part is how has K College communicated some of these things and these situations to them amongst, you know, all this uncertainty and this worry?
So what we have done is we have, you know, first of all, I would encourage any international student, no matter what campus you're on, to get in touch with your international student office. Most campuses have one. There's several people there. They're very helpful. They will help you determine what the next best steps are for you. For our own students, we have made it a point to reach out to them and be proactive and help them understand sort of what's going on, and help them, you know, again, remind them that we're here. We're here for questions, we're here for concerns, and to let them know that we do have a process in place that we can follow, and we will support them in following should something happen. Right now, as far as we can tell, none of our students have been impacted on our campus, but we do have a plan, and we've communicated this to faculty, to staff when it's appropriate, just to let them know that we're taking this seriously.
And then I think my last question, talk to me about, international students' life here on campus. How many international students do you have, and what are they able to do here at K College?
Okay, so our international students make up about 10% of our entire student population. So that's about 150 students on campus. They do a lot of things. They are in classes with our domestic students. They're part of student organizations. Some of them, if they speak a language we teach on campus, they work as teaching assistants in the language lab. They're always hosting different information nights, and involved in several of campus's main events. We really try to make them a part of our campus and give our students who may not study abroad a chance to get to know someone from another part of the world, a chance to make that classroom experience even more richer, to get a different viewpoint.
Awesome. I think that was all the questions I had for you. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything else we haven't touched on with this topic before we go?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.